That door cost the school $250,000. I think it was worth it. I think it's just for that one joke. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Thank you for coming to the inaugural LBCC Communication Studies Student Showcase. Give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming. Some of you guys are here to support your daughters, your sons. Some of you are here to cheer on your best friends. Some of you are here for extra credit. This guy right here. I see him. These are all valid, noble reasons to be here, and no matter why you're here, you're in for a treat. We have quite a show planned for you. All of the performances you're going to see tonight were the best of the best in their debate classes, public speaking classes, oral interpretation of literature classes. So, how will the night be going? We'll start off with individual performances. You'll see prose and poetry interpretations. You will see speeches, persuasive and informative. Then we'll have a 10-minute intermission. During this intermission, you guys will get refreshments that are, wait for it, absolutely free. I know. I'm excited. I'm excited as well. Once that is over, I urge all of you, even if your family members or friends already went, come on back to the second half because we've made it worth your while. It is half the time, but the same amount of excitement. Okay, are you ready for that? Good. After the debate, which will be on the topic of immigration, which is very important, you'll want to go to know what you think about it. I feel like you already all know what you think about it, right? Okay, good. They will not convince you. After the debate, I want to make sure that you guys feel like we were appreciative of having you here. So there will be an opportunity drawing where you can win gift cards to Chipotle, Target, Starbucks. Get out of my dreams. It's amazing. Are you guys ready for that? Great. Here, give me a little bit more energy, okay? All right. Cool. This is important. One of the things that we learn as comm majors is that communication is a two-way street. The speaker and the listener are equally important. We have equal responsibilities. Now, I know that the speakers are going to nail it. So let's go over your guys' responsibilities. Are you ready? Number 1, support everybody. Cheer and clap for the people you know. Cheer and clap for the people that you have no idea who they are. Number 2, give them your full, undivided attention when this light is on. That means phones all the way off. Not even on vibrate, all the way off. These are real live humans on stage. It'll be very awkward if you check Snapchat, okay? Great. Number 3, your third responsibility is to enjoy. Do you accept these responsibilities?
Yes.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. Alex in the light booth. Alex, how you doing tonight? He's good? All right. Alex is going to give me my serious person spotlight right here. Okay, good. Thank you. Let us get started with our first presenter, Ortal Heimski.
I'm a very punctual person, but on that day, I arrived too early. I wasn't supposed to be there yet. Neither did the others who soon followed. My mother was absolutely terrified, and when her fear came true, she almost gave up, but she didn't. This is a story about seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. My mother always dreamt to have a big family. She got married when she was 18 years old, and as she turned 20, she decided to have a baby. After a year of trying to conceive, she realized that something was not right. So she met with several fertility specialists who ran some tests and informed her that in order for her to conceive, she would have to go through fertility treatments. So she did the fertility treatments, which took a very long period of time of 7 years, until one day she received the news that she was pregnant with not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 embryos. She was shocked and overwhelmed. My mother's pregnancy received a lot of attention from her immediate environment because it was really considered to be rare. Her doctors informed her that her high-risk pregnancy would have to be highly monitored, and she ended up spending 4 months out of her pregnancy in the hospital. When she was 7 months pregnant, she had an emergency C-section. She gave birth to 4 girls, which I was one of. I was actually the smallest baby, weighing about 2.5 pounds. Unfortunately, one baby passed away after the other as a result of complications. I was the only one remaining, and the doctors were not very optimistic in regards to my survival rate. At that point, my mother had a mental breakdown. She ran away from the hospital and refused to see me because she was afraid to get attached. My father took care of me during that time. He came to visit me in the hospital every single day. Luckily, my mother received a lot of love and support from her friends and family, who did not let her fall into despair. And after 2 months, she was ready to see me again. I was still at the hospital during that time, but I was eventually released after spending the first 5 months of my life there. So my parents really went through some traumatic experiences, from not being able to conceive, to going through 7 years of fertility treatments, carrying a high-risk pregnancy, and finally giving birth to 4 girls with only 1 survivor. But my mother decided to focus on the positive, despite all the hardships. And as she took me home from the hospital, she decided to name me Ortal. The meaning of the name Ortal in Hebrew is sunlight. She reasoned her choice by saying that it was the light that I brought into her life that took the darkness away. I was her light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you so much for listening.
Let's keep it going. Our next speaker is Devin Torres.
So on March 21st, 2016, a drag queen by the name of Jasmine Masters went on YouTube and started ranting about RuPaul's Drag Race. She had stated that RuPaul's Drag Race had ruined drag. Now, for some of you who aren't sure what RuPaul's Drag Race is, it's a reality competition show where drag queens perform against each other with lip syncing or dancing or with creating their own costumes and whatnot. And it's actually gotten a lot more mainstream because it's changed over to VH1. So today I'm going to be talking to you about where the drag actually came from and what RuPaul's Drag Race doesn't really show the audience that it's showing the show to. So I'm going to be talking first about terminology. This way while I'm talking, you're not like, what did they just say? Like, what does that even mean? And then we're going to be talking about drag within, or ball culture within the 1900s. And then I'm going to be talking about ball culture now and how it's relevant and how there are many influences within it that you might not be catching on to. So the first term that I'm going to be talking to you about is drag queen. And for an example, I actually brought along my personal friend, Miss Contortia Twist, who will be as an example. Hi. So a drag queen is basically a male-identified or non-binary person who enjoys dressing up in female attire. Now, it's a very broad statement, and it's actually so much more than that, but I think that's the simplest form I can put it in for you. Another thing is that I'm going to be talking to you about is, what is a ball? Now, a ball is actually a get-together, kind of like a celebration for queer people. And it's where queer people can come together to celebrate their queerness and just be proud of who they are. But also, what they do there is walk. So walking is basically competing. So let's say that Miss Twist wanted to go ahead and compete for Femme Queen Realness, right? Realness basically means how well that she passes as a cisgender woman. So she would walk and she would perform, and she could do whatever. She could skip down the aisle if she wanted to. She could do whatever she wants. And afterwards, if she won, she would get a trophy. And that's basically what a ball is. It's you compete and you get trophies if you win. So drag was actually present within like the 1800s, but it wasn't something you really talked about or people really noted. So it was known, but not too well. People didn't take photos of themselves or anything. It didn't become big until the 1920s. Now, drag was actually supposed to be for black queer men, and it was supposed to be a space for them to hold. But with having white people come into it and Latino people, it became very messy, especially when white people were kind of being like double spies. And they were kind of telling other people, like, this is what's happening. And so that's how it ended up getting shut down super quickly in the 1920s. It was like, you can't do this here, you can't do this there, it's not right. So they ended up switching positions a lot, different houses to hold these balls. And it didn't even work then, because when they were trying to be nice and trying to invite white people to go, white gay men to go ahead and join their balls, white gay men ended up walking away with the trophies. So people of color weren't even winning anymore, and it was their space originally, but it was still being taken away from them. So they ended up switching it again. And the important thing about these balls to know is that it happened between the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. or like 12 a.m. They were fashionably late. So you might have said 12 a.m., but it started at 3. And the reason why it was so late was because the women who worked on the streets and who were trafficking, this was the hours when everybody was asleep. So it was safer for them to go out. But also, since everyone's asleep, it's safer for a male identified person to walk out in heels and a dress. And it wasn't really, nobody really said anything. When ball culture started picking up, it was really in like the 80s and 90s. So everybody was like kind of hearing about this New York culture that was happening, where all these gay men were getting together for a ball. And especially with Jenny Livingston's 1991 Paris is Burning, that became this huge iconic film because it actually showed ball culture. But not only ball culture, house culture. And house culture was basically just a huge family. It showed the family unit within the balls. So a drag queen by the name of Power Infinity had an interview July 24th, 2014 in the Miami New Times, where she said being in a house is like being in a family. It's a perfect utopian system with a mother and a father. Now, not every house had a father because, again, like male dominance, we don't really need a man, but they always had a mother. And the mother was always there to do their makeup, usually she knew how to sew and would do the clothes. And so the mother took care of everybody. And what they would do is, if you would walk in a ball and they liked you, they would kind of pull you to the side and be like, okay, win a trophy. And if you win this trophy, you can go ahead and you can be a part of our house. And houses, for example, like House of Extravaganza, the House of Ninja, House of Sparkle, these houses would go together and they would compete against each other. And so you really wanted to work to get into that house. Now, what a lot of people aren't really sure of are the influences that ball culture has now. For example, hip-hop. A lot of the beats and a lot of the music, actually, some of it came from ball culture. Like, because, when you're stunting, you're like, you gotta listen to that beat, to get it. So that's kind of what hip-hop took from that. And also, a lot of people think that Madonna came up with voguing, and that's not really true. She actually appropriated it from black queer men who were doing it in ball culture. And one most famous person who had it was Willie Ninja, and he was the one who actually originated it. And he's the one who made it really famous because he showed it to Madonna. Another one would be Nicki Minaj and Lady Gaga. Their costumes used to be so extravagant and large and huge, and drag queens were actually the first ones to be so creative to do those things in the first place. And then Soulja Boy and his song Pretty Boy Swag. Now, he kind of showed how even with ball culture, you can be pretty, like you can be male, but you can also be very pretty. And so it challenged those stereotypes and those normative ideas. So the thing I want to get to you is that even though RuPaul's Drag Race is becoming more mainstream, even though it's showing off this hidden culture that you're not really sure of, there's so much more to it. And drag actually helps out so many people. It gives them a family. It's giving me the confidence right now to be able to do this speech when I really don't like talking in front of people too often. And it just gives people this sense of like, you know what, this is how I feel, and I might not look like this all the time, but I know like I can look like this, and so this is what I work hard to do. So drag is really important, and RuPaul might have ruined it, but there's still a lot more to learn from it.
Spread the word of Willie Ninja. All right, people need to know he made Vogue. Coming up next, our next performer is Edgar Ariola.
True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous I had been, and am. But why will you say that I am mad? Observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story of The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. It is impossible to tell how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold, I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. And so, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now, this is the point you fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing, but you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight I went to work. Every night, at about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it. I put in a dark lantern, all closed so that no light shone out. Then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. I did this for 7 long nights, but every night I found the eye always closed. So it was impossible to do the work, for it was not the old man that vexed me, but his evil eye. Upon the 8th night, I had my head in the room and was just about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the fastening and the old man sprang up in bed crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quiet still. For a whole hour, I did not move a muscle. And in the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. When I had waited a very long time, I resolved to open a little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it, just so much that a single dim ray shot out and fell upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness that chilled the very marrow in my bones. Now, have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over acuteness of the senses? I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. I leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor, pulled the heavy bed over him, and smiled to find the deed so far done. He was dead. I removed the bed and examined the body. I placed my hand upon his heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. I then took up 3 planks from the floors of the chamber and deposited the body all between the scatlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There came a knocking at the street door. I went to open it with a light heart, for what had I to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused, and they had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled. I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned, absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here rest from their fatigues, while I, myself, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of their victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. And they sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted familiar things. But ere long, I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. I fancied a ringing in my ears. My head ached, but still they sat, and still they chatted. The ringing became more distinct. I spoke more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definiteness until, at length, I found that the noise was not within my ears. It was a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, but the officers heard it not. I spoke more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? Oh God, what could I do? I paced the floor to and fro in heavy strides, but the noise steadily increased. Oh God, I foamed, I raved, I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over all. But still they sat, and still they chatted. Oh God, is it possible they heard not? No, they heard, they suspected, they knew, they were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I knew, but anything was more bearable than this agony, anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. Villains, I shrieked, dissembled no more. I admit the deed, tear up the planks. Here, it is the beating of his hideous heart.
Is Leo Catalan.
The United States of America. When people ask me, what do you find so great about America? I have a couple answers. Now granted, we have our flaws. One nation doesn't. But with those flaws come a few things I truly believe make America great. For starters, our diversity. Take a look around. I'm seeing it right here, right now, in this room. People from different ethnic and racial backgrounds everywhere. And with that comes my favorite part of ethnic and racial diversity. The culture. One of the many cultures here in the US is a culture that is as American as apple pie. A culture that I'm a part of and is dear to me. Chicano culture. Today, I'll be informing you on Chicano culture, but specifically, I'll be talking about the origins of Chicano culture, some hardships and uprisings, and Chicano activism today. But before we could talk about anything, we have to know where things come from. So first, I'll be talking about the origins of Chicano culture. So what does Chicano even mean? Where does the word originate? Chicano is a word to describe an individual with Mexican parentage or ancestry that lives in the United States. According to an article on ViviHughes.com, the word Mexicano was used to describe members of the Aztec tribe. If you take out the M and the E in the word Mexicano, you get Chicano, which is the way it is pronounced in today's tongue. But in Nahuatl, the native language of the Aztecs, the letter X was pronounced as sh, giving you Chicano, and then eventually Chicano. But being Chicano is so much more than just a word. My friend Des Campuzano, who got her BA at UC Davis in Chicano Studies, says that being Chicano comes with a sense of pride and consciousness of your indigenous roots. Being proud of your skin color, being proud of having a funny name, being dedicated to your community, and being proud of who you are and where you come from. And a result of that was physical and media-based criminalization of Latino people and much more. And that was just to add on top of the already existing discrimination and oppression that Chicano people were going through. So to combat that, there were rallies and strikes and protests. So now I'm going to be talking about some hardships and uprisings. I'm going to be talking about the farm workers movement and the Zoot Suit riots. History.com states that the Zoot Suit riots were a week-long series of riots in the 1940s in Los Angeles between Chicano youth and members of the U.S. Armed Forces. They were called the Zoot Suit riots because of the long, baggy suits that the Chicano youth would wear. But this wasn't about fashion. These riots were based on stereotypes and prejudiced views. The suits worn quickly became affiliated with gang attire, and with that, racial tension grew. The servicemen saw the youth as draft dodgers and unpatriotic because the wool was being rationed for the war, and these suits were made out of wool. Eventually, tension skyrocketed, and so did the riots. The riots didn't stop until the servicemen were barred from leaving their barracks, and the city had to put a ban on Zoot Suits. But not only was there fighting in the cities, but also in the fields. The farm workers movement was led by Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, partnered up with Larry Itliong of the Filipino farm workers movement. The goal of the movement is stated on Tavana.org, quote, to overthrow a farm labor system in this nation which treats farm workers as if they were not important human beings, end quote. To give you an example of how poorly these workers are being treated, there were no bathrooms at all and were forced to pay $2 a day to live in small metal shacks. How is this possible if at times they didn't get paid? And if they did, they made 90 cents an hour plus 10 cents a basket. And they were denied the right to unionize. So finally, they said enough is enough and went on strike. Eventually, the strike turned into a nationwide boycott, and the farm workers finally got their contracts. But these are just stepping stones of Chicano activism. So finally, I'll be talking about Chicano activism today. Chicano activism today is mostly focused around intersectionality. For example, we have Chicana feminism. This form of feminism, according to scholarblogs.edu, originated in the 70s alongside the farm workers movement, when the women involved quickly noticed the gender inequalities. So Chicana feminism was found to put an end to the machismo and the division of social structures based on gender. A really big movement right now is Black Lives Matter. Chicano activists are standing side by side in solidarity with Black Lives Matter activists. Everybody has their own reasons as to why. I have gone to multiple Black Lives rallies myself. My reasons date back to my upbringing. I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood, and I have a black brother. I also marched for all of the Afro-Latinos who have been victims of police brutality. And also there were Chicano activists at the Dakota Access Pipeline in Standing Rock. So, in conclusion, I talked about the origins of Chicano culture, some hardships and uprisings, and Chicano activism today. But before I go, I want to leave you with this, a saying that is dear to me. Ni aquí, ni de allá, which means I'm not from here, but I'm not from there. Growing up here in the States as a first-generation Chicano, I'm too brown here, but if I go to Mexico, I'm not brown enough. But I feel right at home with my fellow Chicanos and in front of you all. So hopefully you learned something from my speech, and if you're Mexican, maybe you learned something about your own people. Thank you.
The next performer is Sheila Dare.
Sometimes we must interfere. When human lives are endangered and human dignity is in jeopardy, national borders and sensitivities become irrelevant. Whenever men and women are persecuted for their race, religion, or political views, then that place must, at that moment, become the center of the universe. That's a quote from Elie Wiesel, Holocaust survivor. And his words are just as true today as they were in 1944, when Elie, his family, and his entire neighborhood were deported by the Nazis and sent to the Auschwitz concentration camps because they were Jewish. Over 1 million Jews lost their lives in Auschwitz, and one can't even begin to imagine the terrifying horror that the Jewish people felt upon arrival at Auschwitz, or how being there altered their faith. Elie Wiesel accounts for his time in Auschwitz in his memoir titled Night. Not far from us, flames. Huge flames rising from a ditch. Something was being burned there. A truck drew close and unloaded its hold. Small children. Babies. Yes, I did see this with my own eyes. Small children being thrown into the flames. Is it a wonder that ever since then sleep tends to elude me? So that's where we were going. Just a little farther on was a larger pit for adults. Pinched myself. Was I still alive? Was I awake? How is it possible that men, women, and children were being burned while the world remained silent? No, all this could not be real. A nightmare, perhaps. Soon I would wake with a start, my heart pounding, and find that I was back in my childhood home with my books. But my father's voice tore me from my daydreams. What a shame. What a shame you did not go with your mother. I saw many children your age go with their mothers. His voice was terribly sad, and I understood he did not wish to see what they would do to me. He did not wish to see his only son go up in flames. My forehead was covered in cold sweat. Still, I told him that I could not believe that human beings were being burned in our times, that the world would never allow such crimes. The world? The world is not interested in us. Today, everything is possible, even the crematorium. His voice broke. Father, if that is true, then I don't want to wait. I'll run into the electrified barbed wire. Surely that would be better than a slow death in the flames. He didn't answer. He was weeping, his body shaking. Everyone around us was weeping. Someone began to recite Kaddish, the prayer for the dead. And I don't know whether in the entire history of the Jewish people that anyone ever recited Kaddish for themselves. Yitzkadal vayitkedash, Shameh Rabbah. May his name be celebrated and sanctified, my father whispered. And for the first time, I felt anger rising within me. Why should I sanctify his name? The Almighty, the eternal and terrible Master of the universe chose to be silent. What was there to thank him for?
You were there. Our speakers have been bringing it. You guys have been bringing it. I'm very proud of you. Let's keep it going. For Janae Wellington.
Coil it, curl it, twist it, plait it, flat it, string it, ring it, wrap it, rock it, maybe lock it, but style it lush, throw it free, let it bush, call it nappy. All the ways we have with styling our hair. But despite how we choose to style it, curl it, or twist it, the symbolism of hair is often tangled with negativity and fear and insecurities. And in the poem I'm going to be sharing with you all this evening, the author challenges us to pull out those tangles and look beyond stereotypes, acknowledge the historical heartache, and allow ourselves the opportunity to view possibilities. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoy. I give you all The Afro by Kalia Clover. I am the Afro, thick, twisted, and heavy. I grow history in loose leaf collections of combed out oppression, never forgetting the knotted ropes that got me here. Some ask why I don't relax, because my past is the past and it's easier to lay down facts as trivia rather than reality. But I'm still needed, so I grow defiantly. Out of Africa, I've expanded globally, absorbing the pain of every man, woman, and child still held in slavery. Journey with me. See how it's dressed in progress as they attempt to move my words into the fine print of designer jeans and something they call bling, singing of how freedom rings, but they are living off others' agony, nonchalantly offering their $1 a day as a convenience fee to serve Western supremacy. When they see me, they cross the streets, attempting to circumvent, vowing to repent the irrelevant. But I push them into memories of why my pick is necessary to pull out understanding. Feel the texture and depth of my purpose in verses of poetry. Show me the African in your blood, the Asian in your walk, the European in your will, and I will show you the connections that anchor humanity. I am the Afro, thick, twisted, and heavy. I remind you of who you should be, aware of what you could be, if you acknowledge me.
Let's keep it going for our next speaker, Katie O'Neill.
Feminism is cancer. Deport your local illegals. Rape culture is fantasy. These are the kinds of venomous statements that popularized internet provocateur Milo Yiannopoulos, the speaker at the heart of the riots in February at UC Berkeley. Universities should be bastions of free expression, but lately we're becoming far too hostile towards those with unpopular ideas. From free speech zones to shutting down speaking events, the free exchange of ideas is being increasingly restricted and suppressed. Earlier this month, California Assemblywoman Melissa Melendez introduced a form of legislation called the California Campus Free Speech Act. We must support our legislators and pass this bill and vote for it if it ends up on our next ballot. Today, I will illustrate the ongoing issue with restricted free speech, and I will highlight the benefits of the California Campus Free Speech Act. Universities should be the home of open and free discourse for all ideologies, but lately far too many of us are restricting speech out of fear of hate speech. According to the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, 1 in every 6 colleges has already implemented free speech zones, including LBCC. And over the past 15 years, the number of disinvited speakers on college campuses has been steadily on the rise. This struggle is in our backyard. The Huffington Post released a list of the 10 worst colleges in the country for free speech. 3 out of those 10 colleges are in California. One of those is Cal State Long Beach. When these institutions that should be dedicated to knowledge are starting to suppress the diversity of thought, we all suffer. When we begin to silence the voices of people in this country and prevent them from speaking freely, we are risking the foundation on which this country was built. When we lose the ability to speak, we lose the ability to grow. More and more people are using their words and their voices to bring others in this country down. As our country becomes more diverse, so do our academic institutions. Universities are struggling to make students of color, students who are immigrants, LGBTQ students, and others feel welcome and supported to succeed. Some fear that it's impossible to feel that way when the speaker on campus talks about these delicate issues in such a cruel manner. Lawmakers have been flooding the House of Representatives in an attempt to solve this growing epidemic. The California Campus Free Speech Act hopes to require public universities to remain neutral on political issues. It will prevent universities from disinviting speakers, and it will impose penalties for students and others who interfere with these speakers' rights. We need to put provisions into place to protect the speakers and the people peacefully protesting them. The Free Speech Act aims to protect conversation on both sides without stopping it. As our country becomes more divided, we can only unite back together through open lines of communication. College is the time in our lives to encounter different cultures and opinions in an attempt to further shape our own perspectives, which makes this the last place that free speech should ever be restricted. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences. It is impossible to shield everybody from feeling offended, but if you hope to change people's minds, you must join the conversation. The most imperative action that a university can take is to ensure that all students have the right to freely express themselves in all places and at all times. I urge you to support the California Campus Free Speech Act, but mostly I urge you to listen even when you don't agree with someone. I urge you to speak calmly with your adversaries and to never shy away from civil discourse. Today, I'd like to leave you with this. In February, when Milo Yiannopoulos was intimidated out of his speaking event at Cal State Berkeley, he was the senior editor at Breitbart News, and he was on his way to publishing a book. Today, none of these are true. Eventually, his repulsive comments crossed so many lines and offended so many people that he was fired from his job and his book deal was canceled. What this shows us is that sometimes the best ways to beat the bullies is to bring them from obscurity, to give their words an audience, and to let that audience decide for themselves.
Our next performer is Spencer Wooler.
Homosexuality is a topic that until recently was rarely discussed. Not in our media, not in our homes, and certainly not between each other. How to Watch Your Brother Die by Michael Lassell touches upon the topic of homosexuality and how it feels to be faced with a reality that you've never been faced with before. When the call comes, be calm. Say to your wife, "My brother's dying. I need to go to California." Try not to be too shocked that he already looks like a cadaver. Say to the young man sitting beside him, "I'm his brother." Try not to be shocked when the young man says, "I'm his lover. Thank you for coming." Listen to the doctor with a steel face on. Sign the necessary forms. Tell the doctor you will take care of everything. Wonder why doctors are so remote. Watch the lover's eyes as they stare into your brother's eyes, as they stare into space. Wonder what they see there. Remember the time he was jealous and opened your eye with a sharp stick. Forgive him out loud, even if he can't understand you. realize that the scar will be all that's left of him. Drive to Mexico for unproven drugs that might help him live longer. Explain what they are to the border guard. Fill with rage when he informs you you can't bring those across. Begin to grow loud. Feel the lover's hand on your arm, restraining you. See in the guard's eye how much a man can hate another man. Say to the lover, how can you stand it? Hear him say, you get used to it. Think of one of your children having to get used to someone else's hate. Stare at the face of the funeral director when he tells you he will not embalm the body for fear of contamination. Let him see in your eyes how much a man can hate another man. Stand beside a casket covered in flowers, white flowers. Say, thank you for coming. To each of the several hundred men who file past in tears, some of them holding hands. Know that your brother's life was not what you imagined. Over here, 2 mourners say, I wonder who will be next. And I don't care anymore, as long as it's not you. Fly first class and drink scotch. Stroke your split eyebrow with a finger and think of your brother alive. Smile at the memory and think how your children will feel in your arms, warm and friendly and without challenge.
Our next speaker is Doug Campbell.
I don't mean to rat on anyone, but I think you should know the person sitting next to you is a liar. In fact, the person sitting behind you is a liar. In fact, the person speaking to you right now is a liar. We are all liars. Some pundits call our era the post-truth age. Dishonesty is rampant in every aspect of life, whether it's politics, personal relationships, or advertising. Today, I'll speak about the methods used by intelligence officers to detect deception because I think it's important to know when someone's being dishonest. First, I'm going to be talking about the nature of deception. Next, I'll be talking about some behavioral and linguistic clues. And finally, I'll be explaining how to interpret these clues. Before I talk about how to identify lies, I think it's important to understand why people lie. Lying is instinctual behavior. It's a survival mechanism. A baby learns to lie before it learns to speak. It'll fake a cry, wait to see if somebody comes, and then start crying again. Children's lies become more sophisticated as they age. According to a 2010 study by Robert Feldman, a professor of psychology at the University of Massachusetts, college students lie to their parents in 1 out of every 5 conversations. We are lied to between 20 and 200 times a day, yet we only pick up on about 50% of these lies. Lying is a cooperative act. We don't believe lies because we're gullible. We believe lies because we want to believe they're true. Researchers have determined 3 motives for lying. One is to avoid punishment, the second is to maintain relationships, and the third is to bolster self-image. Now that we understand why people lie, let's look at the behavior of people when they lie. According to the 2012 book, Spy the Lie, Former CIA Officers Teach You How to Detect Deception, and the 2015 book, Homeland Security Principles, Planning and Procedures, experts look for kinesic and verbal clues. Often these clues are displayed at the same time because when we tell a lie, our nervous system goes into conflict and we exhibit certain behaviors. Okay, so it's a misperception that liars can't stare you in the eye. A liar will often hold your gaze for a little bit longer than is comfortable. A liar will fake a smile. This is part of trying to be likable. The liar wants you to think they're on your side and that you can trust them. A real smile, you can tell because there's your eyes smile also, you get crow's feet. A fake smile is only lips and teeth. Any hand-to-face gestures, covering the mouth especially, grooming behavior, upper body stiffness, these are all signs. Closely tied to kinesics are verbal clues, often employed at the same time. A liar will often pause before answering a question. They'll stall for time, they may repeat the question, or they may add a qualifier. Before they answer, they may say, "to tell you the truth," or something like that. If someone is polite to you, that's not significant, but if somebody suddenly increases their likability or their nicety, that is significant. They're trying to make it seem like they're on your side. They may even compliment you. Similarly, rude behavior is a sign. A person trapped by facts may attack the person questioning them. They may attack their credibility. If it's a policeman, they may say something like, "Don't you have anything better to do? Aren't there murders to solve?" Creating a halo effect is when somebody will tell you about how they rescued a dog or gave money to a homeless person. And invoking religion. They may say, "I swear to God," or "I swear on a stack of Bibles." These are all significant signs of a dishonest person. Inappropriate questions. If a laptop was stolen on campus, some normal questions might be, whose was it, or what room was it stolen from? A dishonest person would say, "How much did it cost?" Because they want to know if they're looking at a felony or a misdemeanor. I've talked about why people lie and their behavior and speech patterns when they lie. Now I'm going to be telling you how to put these clues together. Professional lie spotters look for clusters of 5 of these clues. If somebody repeats the same clue twice, it only counts as one. If they appear within the first 5 seconds of a conversation, continue monitoring the person and see if they come up with a few more. Even honest people exhibit these signs, so don't jump to conclusions if they do 1 or 2 of them. Before I end, I would like to touch on a few points. To review, I have spoken about the nature of deception, behavioral and linguistic traits, and the cluster of 5 rule. We live in a world of sophisticated communication, whether it's through technology or social media, which has the effect of magnifying deception. It also has the effect of exposing it to a wider audience. That's why it's important to live as ethically transparent as possible, and that's not a lie.
I don't know. Do we trust him? We can trust our next 2 presenters. First one up, Chrissy Harris.
This poem is dedicated to my grandpa, who was murdered in the Cambodian genocide, the 1.5 million people who were also murdered, and the 20,000 residents who now live in Long Beach. No religious rituals, no religious symbols, no fortune teller, no traditional healers, no paying respect to elders, no social status, no titles, no education, no training, no school, no learning, no books, no library, no pens, no paper, no science, no technology, no currency, no bartering, no buying, no selling, no giving, no purses, no wallets, no human rights, no liberty, no courts, no judges, no laws, no attorneys, no communications, no public transportations, no private transportations, no traveling, no mailing, no inviting, no visiting, no faxes, no telephones, no social gatherings, no chit-chatting, no jokes, no laughter, no music, no dancing, no fornication, no dating, no romance, no flirting, No wet dreaming, no masturbating, no naked sleepers, no naked bathers. No love songs, no love letters, no affection, no marrying, no divorcing, no marital conflicts, no fighting, no profanity, no cursing, no shoes, no sandals, no toothbrushes, no razors, no combs, no mirrors, no lotion, no makeup, no long hair, no braids, no jewelry, no soap, no detergent, no shampoo, no knitting, no embroidering, no colored clothes except black. No styles except pajamas, no wine, no lighters, no cigarettes, no morning coffee, no afternoon tea, no snacks, no desserts, no breakfast, sometimes no dinner, no mercy, no forgiveness, no regret, no remorse, no help, no favors, no eyeglasses, no dental treatment, no vaccines, no medicines, no hospitals, no doctors, no disabilities, no social diseases, no kites, no marbles, no rubber bands, no cookies, no popsicle, no candy, no playing, no toys, no lullabies. No rest, no vacations, no holidays, no weekends, no games, no sports, no staying up late, no newspapers, no radio, no TV, no drawing, no painting, no pets, no pictures, no electricity, no clocks, no watches, no hope, no life. A third of the people didn't survive, the regime died.
Now our last individual presenter, Julius Lozano.
Let me tell you guys a little secret. Not every guy out there won't admit this publicly, but every guy out there is looking for a special type of love. And you guys will find this out in Shihan's poem, This Type Love. I want to love like me thinking of you, thinking of me, thinking of you type love, or me telling my friends more than I've ever admitted to myself about how I feel about you type love. Hating how jealous you are, but loving how much you want me all to yourself type love. Seeing how your first name just sounds so good next to my last name. And shit, I wanted to see how far I could get without calling you, and I just barely made it out of my garage. I want a love that makes me wait until she falls asleep, then wondering if she's dreaming about us being in love, or who loves each other more, or what she's doing right now, or slow dancing in the middle of our apartment to the music of our hearts, closing my eyes and imagining how a love so good could hurt so much when she's not there. Shit, I love not knowing where this love is headed. And check this, I want to place those little post-it notes all around the house so she never forgets how much I love her. I want to deal with my friends making fun of me the way I made fun of them when they went through the same kind of love. Only difference is, this is one of them real type loves. And just like in high school, I want to spend on hours not saying shit and then fall asleep and wake up with her right next to me. And her smell is everywhere in my covers. I want to try counting all the ways I love her, then lose track right in the middle, just so I could start all over again. And I want to celebrate one of those 1 month anniversaries, even though they ain't really anniversaries. But doing so, just because it makes her happy. I want a love that makes me regret how small my hands are. I mean, the lines on my palms don't give me enough time to love you as I want to. I want a love that makes me stutter just thinking about how strong this love is. And I want a love that makes me want to cut all of my hair. Well, maybe not all of my hair. Maybe cut the split ends and trim my mustache, but it would be a symbol of how strong my love is for her. But I feel so comfortable now. So sometimes I fantasize about walking to the green light, just dying to get hit by a car so I can lose my memory, get transported to some third world country, get treated, and somehow meet up with you again. So I could fall in love with you in a different language and to see if it feels the same way. I want a love that's unexplainable as she is. But I have a girlfriend now, and she's actually right here watching. So she's the one, or you're the one I want to share this love with.
You guys have been a fantastic audience so far, so we're going to give you a 10-minute intermission and free refreshments come on back after the 10 minutes. We have a lot in store for you. A fantastic debate. We will have an opportunity to win prizes and extra credit for that kind. All right, see you in 10. Welcome back. Yeah. Thank you. Good to see 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 you. What are we about to see? A parliamentary debate. It is intense, it is fun, and you guys can get involved. If you are liking something that one of the debaters is saying, I want you to say loud and proud, "Hear, hear!" Hear, hear! Cool, cool, cool. Let's try it one more time. Let's say you like what I just said. Hear, hear! Cool. If you don't like what they said, keep quiet. All right? Okay, give a big round of applause for our debaters.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Danielle Luciano, and I am the Prime Minister of the government team. Resolved, this House believes the U.S. should have open borders. Open borders are defined as a government border policy of unlimited or free immigration. Under our current policy, immigration agents now focus on picking up and removing anyone charged with or convicted of any criminal offense, even minor ones, as well as anyone already ordered deported, regardless of whether they have a criminal record. When we can prove to you that there are more benefits to open borders than there are costs, then we have won this debate. The first problem with closed borders is that our economy suffers. The Pew Research Center has an estimate that there are 11.3 million illegal immigrants in the United States currently. That number has been relatively steady since 2007. In an NPR interview, Glenn Laurie, professor of economics at Brown University, has stated that those numbers account for 5% of the current workforce. Looking at the agriculture sector, currently, if we specifically look at the agriculture sector, Scott Smith of the Associate Press wrote that our very own California produces nearly half the... Yes.
Can you repeat that statistic on the labor numbers?
Oh, yes, 5% of the current workforce. If we look at our very own California, it actually produces half of our country's fruits, vegetables, and nuts, accounting for $47 billion industry, relying on a farming staff is found by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics that is made up of 85% illegal immigrants. Texas, Florida, and Georgia are also other states that have large migrant communities that make up a lot of their blue-collar workforces as well. Immigrants are more willing to take lower-end jobs. Without research, everyone in this room, as local Southern Californians, know this to be true. Restaurants, furniture manufacturers, and construction firms and farms are essentially having to sit by and watch themselves be put out of economic business by being deprived of their labor workforce, and hurting companies means a hurting economy. Another harm to our current policy is that our government has chosen to militarize Border Patrol and created what seems to be war to control the border. Naturally, hiring former military personnel as U.S. Border Patrol to protect us from those who wish us harm would make sense. However, our military is trained to protect us from enemy combatants, and undocumented immigrants are not enemy combatants. For example, mainstream media has made illegal immigrants or immigrants of any kind to be synonymous with the word terrorist or criminal. The current U.S. language of the U.S. immigration law is flawed because it does not excuse those who are forced under threat to harbor or help known terrorist groups, making them victims themselves of the same terrorist groups that the U.S. government tries to protect us from. The rhetoric that President Trump continues to use for illegal Mexican immigrants claims that they are the causes of the crimes being committed on our soil, when in fact the FBI data has shown that though illegal immigrants has tripled between 1990 and 2013, the crime rate has actually plummeted. USBP's mission is based on the assumption that undocumented immigrants are dangerous people capable of terrorizing our peaceful America, when in fact most migrants are largely driven by economic and family-oriented factors. However, those who come for work to provide for their families find they cannot make their way back homes due to the harsh border realities, causing them to stay indefinitely in our country, backfiring USBP's goal. Our plan of opening our borders is not a strain in our economy as it is commonly feared, nor does it mean opening our borders to criminals, terrorists, as I have proved. Now I will explain to you the benefits of opening our borders. The benefit of opening our borders to migration would work in favor of our country, especially economically. For instance, the White House Council of Economic Advisors claimed that immigration raised the American GDP by $37 billion per year. Immigrants buy food, they pay rent, they go to movies, get haircuts, they spend money on commercial services, meaning that they contribute to the economy, and America in turn is able to benefit from their contribution. Throughout all of my research, almost every article I encountered admitted to the fact that immigrants, legal and illegal, benefit the economy. Though illegal immigrants tend to take jobs American citizens deem undesirable, there is still a common fear that they are the cause for job losses for native citizens. However, what is less circulated, as Professor Laurie points out, immigration is good for employers. Wages are kept down, immigrants are less likely to join unions, less likely to complain about workload or overtime. This in turn is good for customers of goods and services because lower wages means that consumer prices can be kept down. Lastly, with a solely ethical view, the benefit of open borders allows people from other countries, as well as citizens of our own countries, to their fundamental right to freedom. Ela Salmon, law professor at George Mason University, wrote that those who come to the United States generally come from poor and oppressive societies, and coming to America increases their freedoms. Salmon also stated that modern immigrants also seek refuge and escape from religious or ethnic persecution, such as our American founders did from the British, women escaping patriarchal societies, and even fleeing massacres such as those committed by ISIS and other terrorists. As for the benefits for American citizens, it allows them to associate with the businesses they choose, the workers that they want, and benefit from the entrepreneurship of immigrants. According to the Business Insider journalist Annie Kane, 40% of all current Fortune 500 companies were either founded by immigrants or children of immigrants. For example, I myself am a product of immigration. Both my parents left the Philippines as teenagers, and they had to learn to assimilate to a new culture, a new home, but the opportunities that opened up for them in America changed their lives forever. My dad is now a biomedical operations manager for DaVita Dialysis, and my mom is a VP for Planned Parenthood. Growing up, my mom would constantly remind me, "You're lucky you were born in America." America gave my parents freedom to achieve dreams bigger than they could have imagined if they stayed in the Philippines. It is clear that the harm closed borders has on our country and the benefits of opening them would give us, that opening our borders are the clear choice. Vote government.
Leader of opposition, you may begin your constructive not to exceed 8 minutes.
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Stephanie Kruger. I would like to thank everyone for being here tonight, the affirmative team, the judges, and you as well. My partner tonight is Marco Tran, and it is a great pleasure for us to represent the oppositional team on this resolution. This House believes the U.S. should have open borders. First and foremost, I'd like to address open borders is defined as completely open, not partial, limited, or restricted. So the open borders stands. The Cambridge Dictionary defines open borders as a situation where goods and people can enter and leave a country easily. If a movement can be curtailed under any circumstance, it's not really an open border. The affirmative team bears the burden today of providing that a completely open border policy in the U.S. is the best option, it will work, and present a workable solution. They have not done that so far. Also, the criteria of the greater good for all must be met. This is a criteria that's very important because with any sorts of policy changes, we have to worry about what is happening for us as well as the immigrants themselves and the countries they are immigrating from. Secondly, we will show you that having open borders and limits to them is the best plan for the U.S. and further, the negative impacts for Americans and the immigrants is not towards the greater good. I will address some of the arguments so far laid out by the affirmative team. One of the statistics that she gave was that the benefits raised by the GDP by 37 per year. Just so you know our stance, we don't believe people should be treated as commodity. When you think of them in terms of what they can do for me, you're thinking of them as a product, a commodity to be bought and sold. We treat people in a fashion to diminish their humanity, destroy their cultures. We as a society are losing sight of one another as human beings. Witness the Wall Street money chase in which numerous large corporations discount human value as they increasingly convert people into faceless commodities that are bought and sold on a whim to improve corporate standing in the competitive marketplace. I will now go on off case and address 4 points for you today. Number one, we're not talking about the immigration patterns of the past. This isn't what built America. We are talking about open borders that would lead to an epic migration of people. Our population currently is 321 million. While we're able to support this for immigrants that are here now and naturalized citizens, Gallup estimated that 640 million people worldwide want to emigrate from their current country of residence, yet the true number could be much greater than this. Economists predict that absence of border in the U.S. would mean the migration of several billion people to the West. This massive movement of people we are not prepared to assimilate, and note there is no provision in the government's plan in place to support or provide for them. What will happen in 1 week or that first year when this open border policy is enabled? This leads to number two, safety net collapse. We as a country are founded on people who work hard and pay into a system of social benefits that protect the system if we were ever in need or fell on hard times. While the government team would like you to believe that all who emigrate will immediately become tax-paying participants, in the grand economic scheme, the actualization of this becomes much more problematic. A large portion of those entering the world need supplemental help once they get here, and we owe them this. But this will help them get on their feet. Unforeseen numbers of people coming in would overwhelm and collapse the system. According to an article in Foreign Affairs, without migration control, it would be impossible for Western governments to maintain social safety nets in the sense of public programs guaranteeing a decent standard of living to all residents residing in the country. There will be a large number of low-wage labor due to many people who do not have a formal education or immediate job placement once they get here. What are we going to do to help them? Even the highest educated fall victim. Lee Nguyen is a student right here at Cypress College. In his home country of Vietnam, he was a head pediatric doctor, maintaining a staff of 6 doctors and 25 nurses. Here he's a phlebotomist. He cannot pass the oral English exams to make him a doctor in this country. How unfortunate will it be that if we open the border, it sends a message that we can take care of all of our citizens, yet when they get here, we will not even be able to provide a basic support system. That's if they get here safely. Number 3, open borders encourages dangerous travel and exploitation. The people who come here are in a position to be exploited both on the journey to the U.S. and while they are here trying to make a living, by any means necessary. There's no provision in the government's plan to help them get here. They will continue to risk life and limb. On August 6, 2015, an 11-year-old boy named Jonathan was discovered by border police, dehydrated and exhausted. Although they tried everything, Jonathan died because of injuries sustained from his journey. According to the Smithsonian, 444 people, just like this young boy, all lost their lives attempting to get here. Refugees from Afghanistan, Iraq, and Somalia, including children, have complained of all of these abuses. A regulated border deters many people, and conversely, an open border sends a message to millions of people that they should risk this commute. Number 4, spreading of disease. It is a real threat, and although the U.S. has wiped out diseases of the past, there will be a large insurgence with a completely open border. These diseases can spread rapidly and jeopardize high-populated cities like Long Beach and Los Angeles County. It would be quicker than anything we've seen since there is no health examinations of people passing through the border from what the affirmative team has set up so far. People take certain examinations to enter the U.S., and if they fail these exams, they are not allowed entry. Currently, you must take a medical exam, which consists of a physical and a blood test. If the individual fails these tests due to any health-related conditions like polio, cholera, or smallpox, they are not admitted. Even with these tests in place, the infection rate among foreign-born with tuberculosis is 9.8 times higher than citizens who were born in the U.S. 20% of the cases of TB were among foreign-born in California. This was the case in 46% in Washington, 61% in Hawaii, and in Queens and New York alone, it attributed to 81% of new TB cases were all immigrants. What happens when health epidemic occurs? Will the government be able to provide enough antibiotics? What happens when the hospitals become full? Do we have a budget to build new hospitals? The affirmative team has yet to address any of those issues. Thank you for listening to our position today. Remember, the resolution is calling for completely open borders, and for the government team to offer anything less, we'll be agreeing with our stance. Current border model is by no means the best, but it's a false dichotomy to think that because one thing doesn't work, the option is to have the most extreme and radical other situation for this problem. The government team's not realistically looking at how we will be doing this or giving you a workable solution. Who is going to set up the aid? How are we going to do it? How will we combat diseases, infrastructure issues, assimilation concerns, security concerns, safety and overpopulation concerns, exploitation concerns, ability to maintain basic social systems with the sudden growth of millions of people? How does allowing people here help them in the long run? How is it the greater good for them, current citizens, and the countries they are immigrating from? Our interest is in the greater good for all. We must enact policies that are good for the U.S., but also look at what's in the best interest of these countries. We cannot turn a blind eye. Again, we did not address from the affirmative team whether or not, with the immigration of open borders, whether or not they would be able to vote. If the new citizens are not allowed to vote, then are they truly part of this country? If not, are they just an immigrant? If yes, then what stops other countries from sending people here to influence and dictate our policies and elections? Thank you very much.
Member of government, you may begin your constructive, not to exceed 8 minutes.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Tyler Deverell. Our resolution is the House believes that the U.S. should have open borders. I agree with their definitions and our definitions, and I also agree with the status quo. I will be refuting a few of her costs that she laid out for us. She said that we may not have the room to actually have all of these immigrants come into the country, and yet we have much of our land in the country that is unheld. A lot of the land in the Midwest and in other states have a lot of land where we can build new places that can spread for other immigrants. They also said that immigrants would be exploited and used. This is because of illegal immigration. When they have to be illegally immigrated into the country, they are exploited and they are used. But if we have open borders, it'll allow them to get the correct way of getting into the country. Also, health benefits. She actually argued my point for me by saying that we do deserve to give them the health benefits they need. What that means is she said that they'd be coming in with diseases, they'd be coming in with all those things that they can't get in their own country. But if they immigrate into our country, they can get all of the help that they need from our health system. I will now go into some of the harms as to why we should have, or why open borders does not work. Culturally, the United States has a few major locations that are really good for the culture to thrive. Most of the country, however, does not allow differing cultures and almost fears it.
Question?
Yes.
Can you give us a number on how much this help would cost?
Well, I will get to that later, and I will let you know. That'll be one of my benefits that I point on. The United States prides itself on its diversity and its freedom to express oneself. Statistically, however, we are not as diverse as we all may think. 62% of the entire population of the United States is Caucasian. Now, I understand that that is a fairly diverse thing because it's Europe and there are many countries. However, there are many more different cultures in the world than there are Caucasian cultures. Only 17% of the country is Hispanic, only 13% is African American, and only 5.6% of Asians. Native Americans who were here before us now only populate 1.2% of our entire country, and the remaining population only is 0.7%. The most common citizenship principle in use today were established in particular historical contexts to keep citizens in their country, which is just solely, which means to the soil. That means that when they are born there, they have citizenship there, but they also must stay there. My second harm is that many people with the most desire to move to our country cannot because they have economic problems or because they are from a certain region. According to David Lesh, writing in the New York Times, for example, most Syrians, as we all know, there's a big problem in Syria. There's a war going on. There are a lot of citizens, innocent people who need help. The unemployment rate for most Syrians is 50%. Half of the Syrian children are not enrolled in school, and most of them live in poor living conditions. Turkey tries to help these people. However, they face a problem. They have a declining GDP. They have multiple attacks with a war against Kurdish fighters in the southeast. How can they help?
Question?
Yes.
Can you explain your source for this information?
It was from the New York Times. It was David Lesh, and he was interviewing people in Syria. There are nearly 3 million refugees that need our help, and if we open our borders, they would be able to get the help that they deserve, and it would also help Turkey.
Question.
Yes.
How are we planning to get them here?
Well, that would be something that we would need to work on. Open borders doesn't mean we're just going to open the borders and say, hey, come on in. Opening borders is a policy change. We would have policies enacted to be able to help people into our country. I have laid out the problems with not having open borders. I will now let you guys know on a couple of benefits that would be to opening our borders. It would allow for a more culturally diverse United States, and it would allow our country to grow in unity. We are very divided because of the certain president that we have right now. As I explained earlier, more than half of our country is Caucasian. As I said, that is diverse, but the amount of cultures that we could bring in and spread across the country would be numerous. My second benefit, to answer your question about the economic, opening our borders would give people in a lower income state a chance to raise their income. In 1984, Robert Hamilton and John Wally estimated that free migration would nearly double the world income. I know that was a long time ago, but there were two new studies done in 2005 that had a similar reaction. Wage differentials, which wage differentials is a difference in pay between workers with different skills in the same industry or workers with similar skills in different industries. If we reduced wage differentials by 1%, the economic gains for the world would be $81 billion. If we reduced it by 10%, it would be a yield of $774 billion. And if we completely got rid of wage differentials, it would be a staggering $3.4 trillion in the world. Now, I understand I'm saying the world, but you have to realize we are one of the leading economic countries, which means a lot of that wealth would be coming to us as well, helping us to get them into the country. It is clear that our borders being closed has a negative effect on our country, and we have the evidence to prove that we should open our borders. Thank you, and vote government.
Member of opposition may begin your constructed, not to exceed 8 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight, as well as LBCC and the Communications Department for hosting such a great event. Also, I'd like to thank our esteemed judges, the government team, and my amazing partner, Stephanie Kruger, as well as all the speakers and performers that showed up tonight. My name is Marco Tran, and tonight I will be representing the opposition side for the resolution, the U.S. should have open borders. I will begin by addressing a few points the affirmative team has brought up. Then I will go off case and present some disadvantages as to why the resolution shouldn't be adopted. First and foremost, the government team has offered a criteria of cost versus benefits, and all of their points that they brought up tonight has to do with money and workers and our businesses. Okay, but what about the immigrants? Okay, their only point was that they're going to make more money working here, but at what cost? I mean, what exactly are we paying them? And is this raise in income based off of what they were leaving behind? That's why we would like to offer a criteria of what's the greater good for all. Okay, the reason being the issue of migration and border protections is twofold. As a nation, we must enact policies that are for our own people's best interests without turning a blind eye to our neighbors and those in need. For this reason, we believe that the greater good for all is a more appropriate criteria for judging this debate. Tonight, it's the affirmative team's responsibility to demonstrate that a border model without any limitations or restrictions is what should be enacted here in America. These border restrictions and limitations do not pertain just to people, but goods as well. Any attempt to limit the openness of the border by the affirmative team would not be true to the resolution and would mean they agree with us, the opposition, that the United States should have border restrictions. We, the opposition, will provide examples as to why having an open border will not work and how an open border will hurt immigrants as well as Americans. I'd like to address the on-case topics first and foremost. And the government team mentioned that we stated that room was not a question and that we would not have a place to put all of these immigrants. That was something that we never stated, okay? The issue is not room, but it's more about what sort of life will these people be living here in America? What exactly is it that we can provide for them as Americans, as a nation, and how having them here will affect us, okay? Next, they totally gloss over the fact of how these immigrants are going to get here. Okay, now the trek of immigrants and refugees and people that want to come here to America is not an easy one, and I will elaborate on this later. Secondly, they brought up an issue of if we bring all these immigrants in, we'll grow in unity, which is essentially not feasible. Okay, at the numbers that are estimated to come across, it becomes an issue of assimilation versus multiculturalism. Okay, essentially, all of these people, like it or not, they're going to be building their own communities. They're going to be existing in their own enclaves, and they're essentially bringing a little bit of their own country here, which there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. But the idea is that we are Americans and we have our own identity as well. So, what's to say that they're going to take on our culture, or they're going to exist here in America, and not adopt any of our ways? Okay. I will now go off case and address some disadvantages to the resolution. Disadvantage number one: if we open our borders, go for it.
My question is, what American ideals do they have to adopt, and why can't they keep their own?
Absolutely none whatsoever. Absolutely none. Okay, but you brought up an idea of unity, and without some sort of common ground, okay, and understanding of each other's cultural values, how can there be any unity? Okay, moving on. Like my opponent already stated, this sort of migration is nothing like the past. Okay, according to the organization Houston History, European migration peaked in 1907 when 1.3 migrants relocated to the U.S., and by 1910, about 13.5 million immigrants were living in America. Now, by comparison, a Gallup poll estimates that 16% of the world's adults would like to relocate permanently. This translates to roughly 700 million worldwide. Nearly 1/4 of all these survey respondents, 165 million, picked the same country as their top destination. Can you guess which country? The US of A. America has always been a top choice for migrants, but opening our borders would allow access to an unprecedented amount of people. Disadvantage number two: our current social safety net isn't capable of handling such a large influx of people. Opening borders would result in a collapse of systems a lot of Americans depend on. The reality is that most new arrivals won't be self-sufficient and will no doubt have to rely on some sort of public assistance. In an experiment on open borders, it was hypothesized by economist Nathan Smith that, and I quote, certain American ideals would die of their own increasing impracticality. For example, equal opportunity, the social safety net, one person, one vote, or even non-discrimination in employment. I further quote his words in a Foreign Affairs article of April of this year. Without migration controls, it would probably be impossible for Western governments to maintain social safety nets. A vast influx of immigrants would bankrupt the welfare state, as newcomers wouldn't be able to pay enough in taxes to finance the benefits to which they're entitled. End quote. It should be noted that Nathan Smith is an economist who's in favor of open borders, though even he admits our current system can't handle this sort of mass migration. Disadvantage number three: migrants will face dangers just trying to get here, and once they are here, they'll face exploitation through labor manipulation. Just because we open borders doesn't mean we'll be providing a first-class ticket for every individual that wants to come here. Travelers will be exposing themselves to dangers as well as risk, abuse, and manipulation. Amnesty USA states that 20,000 migrants are kidnapped every year in situations just like this. According to the Mexican National Human Rights Commission, criminals earn $50 million each year by abducting travelers. Furthermore, it's estimated that 6 in 10 women and girls will be raped on their journey. Take, for example, in Europe, where according to Amnesty International, a survey of 40 refugee women and girls traveling through Turkey and Greece reported that in almost all of the countries they passed through, they experienced some form of physical abuse or financial exploitation. They were either groped or pressured to have sex by smugglers, security staff, or other refugees. Now, let's just say by the grace of God, these travelers arrive on our shores safely. Their next hurdle will be finding work in a place that has typically treated labor as a commodity, where immigrant labor usually gets taken advantage of. The Southern Poverty Law Center states that guest workers are victims of minimum wage violations disguised as complicated piece rate pay schemes, underreporting of hours, failure to pay overtime, and unlawful deductions. Those of us who are less insensitive to non-citizens' workers' rights would say, well, their own ignorance is what allows them to be treated this way. But take, for example, the situation that some skilled immigrant workers face. In a report commissioned by the U.S. Congress, H-1B visa workers receive lower wages, less senior job titles, smaller signing bonuses, and less pay and compensation increases that would be typical for the work they did. It makes no sense to allow these people to put their lives in jeopardy just to get here, and once here, subject them to subpar standards. Thank you.
Leader of Opposition, you may begin your rebuttal, not to exceed 3 minutes.
All right, so I'd like to thank you all again for being here, the affirmative team for their arguments. I'd like to sincerely thank my partner, Marco Tran, and the team for the hours of research solely dedicated to this subject matter. We're here to debate what is the greater good for all. In terms of opening the border and completely opening the free flow of goods and people, we allow chance to occur. With that, we hope no one is taken advantage of, that no one coming in has ill will or ill intent, love or hate, that the numbers of people coming in would all be acclimated and well adjusted, that everyone who wants to come here would be coming in and do it so in the safe way. They would not be putting their lives at risk. And that with a large influx of these citizens, the U.S. will be able to step up and help everyone who arrives. The truth is, this is nice sounding in theory, but if taken strictly for face value, without a workable plan or solution in place, just saying we should open the borders lends itself to countless issues, just a few of which that we have addressed today. We've barely scratched the surface, and because of there's a few arguments that do stand tonight because they were not addressed by the affirmative team. The affirmative team did not address the large communities and potential health issues. Because of this, the argument stands. The affirmative team did not provide a transitional plan and possible ways to deal with social programs and government aid. Therefore, this argument stands. The affirmative team did not address the huge risks of exploitation and the difficult act of just getting here. Therefore, this argument stands. The current border model is often touched as ineffective and in need of change, and this is true. The solution of opening the border, though, is not the answer, and is risky and negligent option, which lends itself to so many other issues. What we need to do is step in and change our policies. We need to focus on what we can do for these countries to help them. We need to figure out why they're fleeing and what we can do. We give less than 1% of our GDP every year to help these underserved nations, everyone around the world, and the government team would like to think that we should give less. Just let them come in and let them work for their money. They'll figure it out. We believe we can do more. In response to the affirmative team saying what immigrants have to assimilate to, just think about the large enclaves of communities. There are still people out there that don't believe that women should have a right to vote, that women are not equal. So when they come here, are we going to allow them to continue thinking that way? Or do we force them to be American? What's the right answer in this? I'd like to thank everyone again for listening to our speech today.
Prime Minister, you may begin your rebuttal, not to exceed 4 minutes.
Thank you again for joining us. As regards to what having open borders would mean for us, my partner actually brought up that what cultural benefits that having open borders would give to Americans. But what is America? What is, quote, American culture? We have actually prided ourselves in being a melting pot. As for those who want to find refuge for their current home, the U.S. being one of the wealthier countries, as my partner approved, we cannot only provide refuge for Syrians, but also further better our economy, as we would mutually benefit from their economic contribution as they would our safe shelter. In regards to people making the journey to America, If our border was open or closed, people will risk their lives to get to America because we have built the idea of the American dream. What can we provide for them? What we can provide for them is a safety of a home that is not at war and a stable economy. Our borders would open borders would give immigrants the opportunity to change the. They said that we are exploiting them, but think of the exploitation they're facing at home. They know the risks that they would have to take to get here. Immigrants understand the benefits of living in America, and their opportunities here, even with blue-collar jobs and the exploitation, are still better than their home countries. Throughout this debate, my partner and I have demonstrated that as a country, the United States would very clearly benefit from opening our borders to those who wish to come here. Not only is supporting them and denying entry bad for the economy, the militarization of the Border Patrol has created an enemy that does not exist. Opening our borders would allow for our economy to grow as well as give people the freedoms they deserve. We are not saying that this plan should happen now, but it is a policy that we should work on. No plan is perfect. There is no such thing as perfection, but the benefits outweigh the costs, and for this reason, we have won this debate. Thank you.
Let's give all of our debaters a huge round of applause. Nice. They're shaking hands. They'll be eating orange slices. I think the winner in this debate was you guys. Absolutely. Right? Yeah, they did great. They did fantastic. I want to thank you guys very much for coming out, see your family, your friends, complete strangers, and supporting everyone throughout the entire night. If you are a student, this is what the classes can help you learn to do. The classes here, they have summer, fall, winter, spring. It's amazing. I went through the program and I loved it. All these teachers are fantastic. In fact, let's give the faculty a big round of applause. They taught and coached all of these people. I know why you're here right now. You want to win some stuff, right? Okay. Here, here. Here, here. We have the Giants.
Oh my. Can we put this over here?
Oh, you sure can.
Yeah.
We're out of here.
Okay. So first of all, who likes Chipotle? Yeah, one guy. Fingers crossed for you, buddy. For the $25 Chipotle gift card, get your tickets out. 769049. 769049? No? Going once? Going twice? Delicious Chipotle gone in the breeze. All right. 769059. Really? I believe you. Here you go. All right. Who likes coffee? You like coffee? All right. Did you put your name? The winner of the Starbucks $25 is 769039. Yeah? All right. Cool. Very nice, very nice. Who wants to go to my favorite store? Now, who can just spend $25 there? You're amazing. Let's see. The winner will be 769054. No one?
I dropped both of mine in the Target. Oh,
wow.
So that means you win twice.
I think you got a lot tonight from speaking to everyone and being amazing. Let's try one more. Let's see. Same exact number, yeah.
It's the same numbers.
It's a different number. 769082. Hey! Hey! Really? What? Give it back. All right. Coffee Bean, the other Starbucks. I actually prefer Coffee Bean. I prefer Coffee Bean. All right. Are we ready? 769069. Wait, what? Next to her, can you prove it? It's the last two 6-9? 6-3. All right. Luckiest lady. All right. Amazon, which means you can use this for anything. What? All right, Amazon. Boom. A lot in this one. Let's mix them around. Seven, 6, 9, 0, 8, 3. Really? 8, 3? Cool. We have, where are they? All right. Okay, we want to give a certificate of participation to everyone who participated tonight. They did a fantastic job, and we want them to know that. So give them a round of applause. First of all, Stephanie Kruger. They can keep the files? All right. Okay. Everyone's a winner. Marco Tran. Thank you. Marco. Tyler Deborah. You put this in a very smart order. Thank you. Danielle. Julius. Where did Julius go? Hey, there you go. This might just be in reverse order. Yep, Chrissy Harris. Hey. Doug Campbell. Where's the liar? All right. Then we can just tell him that we gave him this. Spencer. There you go. Katie O'Neill. Janae Wellington. Let's go. Sheila Dare. Leo Catalan. Edgar Areola. Devin Torres. Ortal Heimski. You guys, I get one too? Shucks. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming out. Have a great night. Thank you guys.